Hey everybody, it's time for another episode of Grant Draws. Tonight we have Sam McClurg. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yep, McClurg.
Okay, cool. Reminds me of the Clergan from Highlander.
Yeah, Highlander is awesome, man.
Um, okay, so as usual, we're sponsored by the Independent Creator Directory. Uh, as always, the Independent Creator Directory is basically the Internet Movie Database, but for independent creators. We have board game designers on there. We have comic book creators. We have role playing game designers, novelists. We've got all types of cool artists and creators and writers on there. Let me go quickly through the chat. Dan is saying good evening. So is Carl. So is Donna. Dan is saying hi back. Everybody's saying hi. Sam is getting in on the action. He says, "Who's ready to rock and roll?" Donna's saying hi back. Everybody's saying hi back. Sam is saying, "I got some comics pulled and we were going to have some fun tonight." Yeah, we were talking a little bit before the show. You brought out some Jim Rugg comics, but so we both kind of met through the cartoonist kayfabe community. And specifically the fact that we're both tabling at the Ed Piscor Memorial Comic Book Convention, um, and we worked on a kind of a zine together. So
Mhm.
yeah, we're gonna show off some of the comic books by those guys. Donna's saying, "Don't forget to like and share, folks." And I know you're subscribed. And then Donna's saying, "Hi, Grant." Hi, Donna. How you doing? I always forget to say hi to the hosts of shows when I'm watching them. So Donna must be more polite than I am. Uh, I just wanted to go over quickly my Kickstarter. I feel like anybody who's watching my show probably already knows about it, but this is my comic book. It's called League of Cryptids. League of Cryptids, the idea is that cryptids are ancient aliens who were put here to protect the Earth and help us develop. And in this particular storyline, the gang has to get together to defend Earth from an alien invasion. And the alien invasion is from a species that resembles the Loveland frogmen. So that is on Kickstarter right now. You guys only have a week left to back. So if you guys were planning on waiting till like the last minute, it's maybe not the last minute exactly, but it's definitely getting there. But yeah, we still have about $500 to fund. I won't lie to you, I was hoping to be funded by now, but we still have a week for any of you guys who are last minute people.
You'll get there for sure. I mean, like I was telling you through email a couple days ago, generally, like the last 48 hours on a Kickstarter gets pretty hot. So I'm sure once that, tick down kind of starts, a lot of people will hop onto it and, start backing that comic.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to ask you, though, is are you familiar with Cryptozoic Man at all?
What's it called?
Cryptozoic Man?
Uh-uh.
Yeah, do you know the show Comic Book Men?
Yeah.
Okay, so those guys like Walt Flanagan, like who was the manager at the stash, he's an actual artist, and Brian Johnson's a writer, and they put out a book called Cryptozoic Man. It's basically like Sasquatch, Loch Ness Monster, so on and so forth, and it's like all matched into one character. It's a really cool horror comic, very like swamp thingy. So I would recommend to check that out.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. Yeah, uh I know that cryptid comic books have been kind of getting like a little bit trendy. I definitely started working on this comic book not realizing that, but yeah, but yeah, cryptid comic books are cool. I'll definitely check out that one that you mentioned. Um, So, Sam, do you want to tell the people a little bit about yourself, like what comic books you do? I don't know if you're promoting anything tonight.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, my name's Sam McClurg. I guess I'm a 32-year-old cartoonist from Green Bay, Wisconsin. And like what Grant was saying, we had met through the Eddie P kayfabe kind of community. We worked on and like an anthology book that I had done. I actually am cranking out a second issue, and I actually just sent it off to the printer yesterday. So that one is like double the size. So the last one we did was 20 pages. This one is 40 pages. So we doubled the size, and it's pretty sick. I wish that I had a an image kind of ready to go to show it off to you, but um, it's dramatically better, I would say, in terms of the quality. And then plus that first anthology was one of the first books that I had like printed myself. So I learned a lot in terms of like printing process, what kind of papers to use, and all that kind of stuff that'll help the art look better. So that'll go a long way.
Do you
Um,
mind if I ask where you're
but yeah,
getting it
so
printed?
I'm just using Mixam. That like I'm sure everybody else is. But yeah, so I mainly make like underground outlaw type of books. So if you're into things like R. Crumb, Tim Vigil, that kind of stuff, that's what I make. I'm also in the process of creating my own creator owned book. I have half page 10 sitting on my desk right over there. I'm currently in School of Visual Storytelling, and Jake Parker and Sean Christor are the instructors there, and we actually graduate this week. Thursday
Oh,
or
wow.
Friday is our last class, so that's done. So this comic that's sitting on my desk. That's what I've been working on the last 10 weeks. Was literally just like thumbnailing it, writing it, scripting it, so on and so forth. And then
Well,
I've been in the
congratulations.
drawing stage for like the last week and a half now.
Wow,
And
that's exciting
that's
news.
gonna be a big boy. It's gonna be 100 plus pages, probably like 100 to 110 pages is probably what I'm estimating. So it's gonna be a bigger trek to get it finished.
So now, how do you distribute these books? Have you done Kickstarters in the past? Do you just distribute them through your website?
Yeah, so I kind of have just been networking my ass off, to be honest with you. So a lot of the people that we met through the anthology, the kayfabe community, and then other communities and stuff like that. So I just basically met a bunch of people. And just cold calling comic book shops, cold emailing comic book shops, and basically just doing everything I can to get my books in places. So I kind of created like a my own distribution model to where it's going straight from Mixum to them, and I don't have to worry about shipping or anything like that. And then I get a handful of copies sent to myself, and then when people order them through my website or I do tabling and cons or whatever, I have that stuff to send out, but a vast majority of my stock goes to other places. So like this run of the second anthology, we printed like 150 copies, and about 100 of those are going out to shops and other people like that to then sell them. So then that money had already been given to me basically because they're buying them wholesale.
Awesome. Okay, so do you have any uh, plans to try to get into like say the Diamond catalog? I mean, if Diamond even still exists, or do a Kickstarter or anything in the future, or do you kind of like doing it like the DIY
Yeah, I mean,
method?
I'm always open to doing Kickstarters. It's like you've had a lot of successful Kickstarters, and I look up to like dudes like Jim Off Food. Just had a super successful Kickstarter with Savage Street Vigilante, and Sean Crystal just wrapped up a Kickstarter, and he just made like 40 some grand on his Kickstarter. So I
Oh,
mean, I
nice.
I understand that the market is there. I think for this larger like graphic novel is what I'd really consider it as. I think that I will probably kickstart it, but I will wait until the book is completely finished to then roll that stuff out. Purely because it's a larger book, so I don't know like delays and things like that that could happen, and I don't want that to interfere with like a Kickstarter because I've been a part of Kickstarters before where it's a risk and it has excuse me, and it's not done yet, and then, oh, there's a delay, and then you're waiting another 2 weeks. Oh, there's a delay, and then that delay turns into 6 months, and then sometimes you just never see the project because things happen. And I would never want to, put people that are backing my project into that same type of situation. So once the thing is completely finished, I think I'm going to go the Kickstarter route. And in SBS, that's something that they completely go over, is like they spend an entire week basically on kickstarting, crowdfunding, and all that kind of stuff. So um
Oh,
yeah,
that's
I mean,
awesome.
that's definitely something that I plan on doing, with probably with the graphic novel, but it's probably not going to be done until, man, towards the end of the year, and like into the winter is probably when I'm estimating. Um because I have I'm working on we're going to be doing a third anthology, so if you want to contribute to that, that's going to be available there. But so yeah, it's like I juggle multiple projects at the same time, so it's a lot of time management and things like that I like to do, and it gives me a lot of freedom to kind of work on what I want to work on, so I can kind of bounce in between projects, and that's just how I operate.
Yeah, it sounds like you have the same problem I do, which is there's just not enough hours in the day, right?
Yeah, and are you working like a full time job too on top of doing comics?
I don't work a full time job. I actually have two or three, like, what I call gigs.
Sure.
Um, I do stagehand work, and I also do Ubering or lifting uh, on occasion. So um, yeah, I mean that's the reality of being a comic book an indie comic book creator, right? You have
Yep.
to do something to pay the bills, right?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I pretty much, I mean, my hack is working from home. So I draw and work at the same time. So that's how I'm able to get a lot done more than probably what a lot of people can. And like my recommendation to people out there that might be in the same boat, to where it's like maybe you're working a full-time job and you're not home to do that. It's like finding call center work, because the vast majority of call centers, their buildings are shut down, and they have been since COVID, and they're not going to open them back up. And it's just like getting in call centers, it's mindless work, but while people are just yapping in your ear on the phone, you could just be sitting and drawing, and that's pretty much what I do, or
Oh,
have been doing. So that's definitely one of the things that I'm able to do to get a lot of like comics done. And even in some cases, I'll open up my DaVinci over on like another browser, or my other screen, and I'll sit and I'll edit videos while people are just yapping in my ear about stuff. So
oh,
yeah, that that definitely goes a long way. But I'm definitely, trying to work to like do this completely full time, and that's definitely my ultimate goal. I think my niche is going to be, eventually I would like to break more into a publishing. So like I was saying earlier, I'm from Wisconsin, so Kitchen Sink Press is from Wisconsin. Obviously they're a defunct company now, but my mentor, Ray, he was the art director there for like 15-20 years or so, up until they closed their doors down. Uh, So the Kitchen Sink, I guess, was like a really big influence on me with
yeah,
how they operated and what they've done, because they pretty much would publish anything and everything. So if it was undergrounds or whatever, they would do it. And that was one of the things that I loved about Kitchen Sink. And I kind of want to wish there were still companies around that were still doing those sorts of things outside of just niche indie stuff. I think Fantagraphics does a pretty good job, but their standards are so high that you would never see like an artist who's kind of like iffy, their anatomy's wonky, so on and so forth. Like you would never see that in a Fantagraphics book. But you would
right.
always see that kind of stuff in a Kitchen Sink book and whatnot. So I kind of want to maybe like start up like a publishing business, and then like find people and publish their books, and do things like covers, and then my own like for their books, and then like own my own sequential stuff as well. Just kind of on the side. But I think that's really going to be where I kind of slide or wedge myself into the comic book industry past just making underground comics. You know what I mean? So I think that's where my ultimate goal is, to kind of like spin up a publishing imprint of some sort.
So have you heard of Cosmic Lion?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I can't
That
remember what the hell the owner's name is, but yeah, I'm familiar with what they do.
so they were involved in a comic book that I was involved in. They did the Megaton Man, um, um, Don
Yeah,
Simpson's
reprints.
Megaton Man.
Yeah.
That was which was pretty cool. Um, and I had a couple pages in that, but
Oh, really?
yeah, but I met the guy who owns it, and right now his name is escaping me.
Eli Schwab is
Um,
his name.
what was it? Eli?
Eli Schwab.
Okay, yeah. But anyways, yeah, real nice guy. I mean, it kind of sounds like you want to do something kind of similar to what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean that's honestly not far off, to be honest with you. It's pretty similar to what I would like to do, is like find weird niche artists that are like passionate about what they're doing, and like kind of like funding their books, but also kind of like doing my own thing on the side. So
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's definitely something that I'd be interested in doing. And that's funny that you say, excuse me, that you worked on Megaton Man, because like Don Simpson is like one of my biggest influences, like period. And then, as you're
Oh,
aware,
really?
it's like he did a lot of work for Kitchen Sink.
Can I tell
Um,
you some? Can I tell
yeah.
you something
So Ray,
that'll make you? Can I tell you something that'll make you insanely jealous? Then I'm
what's
going to have
that?
coffee. I'm going to have coffee with Don Simpson tomorrow.
Well, so Don and I email back and forth every once in a while, so I'm sure he knows. He, if you mentioned that you did a show with me, he'll know, because Ray, my original mentor, obviously with Don putting out stuff at Kitchen Sink, when I was first coming up, and Ray was, kind of teaching me the ropes and stuff. He was just kind of like, "Oh, who are your influences? Who do you like?" And I brought up Don Simpson. He just like stopped me in my tracks and was like, "Oh, I know Don," and then blah blah blah, and then kind of got me in contact with them. We kind of email back and forth every once in a while. But yeah, I ended up backing both the Megaton Man book, and he had another one that was also separate, that was also Megaton Man, but it wasn't like a reissue. I think that was like a new book, and that was a separate Kickstarter. And I also backed that whenever they plan on getting those out to us.
Yeah, um I look forward to hearing what you think, like when you get the comic book. So I've seen it just because he sent like proofs around it and stuff. And
Yeah,
I got to say the book looks pretty cool. Um, I mean, obviously there's the famous people who are involved, like Jim Rugg, Steve Bisett. Is that how you pronounce it? Bisett. Um,
Beset.
Bissett, yeah, Alan Davis, guys like that. Um, but like you said, if I'm gathering from what you're saying, sounds like you're kind of interested in like the artists who are a little bit less polished. Um,
Yeah, I that's one of the reasons why I love the kayfabe dudes so much, is because like they would show off those kind of books, because if somebody would have showed me like a Faust comic like 20 years ago, if somebody would have showed me, an R. Crumb comic or whatever like 20 years ago, like I feel like I would have been on a path to making comics way sooner. And when I did discover kayfabe and kind of like going through all of their videos and all their encyclopedic knowledge and everything, I was like, oh, there's comics out there that have wonky drawings and like have weird faces, and not that it's passable, but you can still get work out there. And I think that's kind of charming, because it still has a lot of passion behind it and a lot of meaning behind it. And I don't know, but I love picking up comics and like seeing like just the weird drawings and just whatever just people kind of put out there. I'm gonna sit into the comic book shop and dig through the 50-cent bins and the dollar bins and find whatever weird stuff is in there.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of punk rock, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
hope that doesn't. sound pretentious or whatever or cliche, but yeah, it's kind of the idea that anybody can make a comic book. You don't have to be this amazing artist. And I mean, I guess the thing to me that's fascinating about, when you find these weird comic books, um, uh, in the back issue, the back issue boxes, it's like, I know how much time these comic books take. So, I mean, a 20-page comic book, no matter how good or how terrible it is, that's hundreds of hours of somebody's life that they're
Yep.
they're spending. And it's crazy to think, like, every comic book that you see in a back issue box equates to hundreds of hours of somebody's life. But yeah, I don't know what the point I was trying to make was, but I mean, to me it's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, it's honestly interesting, and then you also have to think too, like how many artists, and this is something that Jake Parker talks a lot about. It's like 75 to like 80% of artists start their comic and then they just never finish it. It just never goes anywhere. So like actually getting your comic done is like the biggest task possible. And then like once you get that first one done, you're kind of like, okay, and then you can kind of just keep the train rolling. But that's like
Well,
the biggest.
I would go
Yeah.
one step further and say a lot of artists never even start their comic book. Because, I mean, I get emails all the time from people saying, like, hey, I see you have this comic book on Kickstarter. It looks kind of cool. I would really like to do, my own. What advice do you have? And and I try to be um, really nice and really helpful, just because people were helpful with me when I was first starting out. So I want to try to, like, what's that expression? Pay it forward.
Yeah.
But I a lot of times I spend, like, a lot of time, like, giving these people advice, and then, like, 4 or 5 months later, I'll try checking up on these guys, and it's very rare that they've made any progress whatsoever. So, um, yeah, I mean, what I always say is, the number of people out there who have a dream of either writing their own book or writing a screenplay or making a comic book or whatever it is, um, the number of people who actually accomplish that is so, like, the disparity behind it is so ridiculous, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. I mean, so I guess to give a little context, so I was in the Marine Corps, and that was kind of like my first experience, like right out of high school, to where I would, you would see people just like drop like flies on stuff. And then obviously I went through it and had an honorable discharge and all that stuff, and then I was going through college, and that was like also like the same experience. It's like you show up to class in the first day and there's 200 people there. Then by like week 6, there's only 10 of you sitting in that classroom still.
Oh, wow.
And so it's like, and that's like the same thing that I've kind of noticed, I guess, with comics. And so like I went to school for sound engineering and music production, and I always had a joke that like musicians and cartoonists are the two flakiest people on the planet, because it's just like they'll say they might do something and then they don't. You ask them to show up to somewhere and then they don't, and then it's just like, you know what I mean. So I think that just kind of goes with artists in general, just like weird eccentric types. But at the end of the day, so I think just being disciplined is goes a long way, and having self-awareness also goes a long way. And I think that people eas either get easily distracted or easily discouraged, or they kind of realize like, "Oh, this is way more work than I had anticipated." Um, like, because like I was saying, I'm in SVS right now, and they started out, and I think there was like 160 students or something like that, like right off the start. And then it's a 10-week fast course, and on like week 1, 2, and 3, it's like the assignments were like real basic. It was literally like, what are your inspirations? It's like easy stuff like that, and then there would be a million posts, and we're rolling into week 10, and we're seeing 10 posts of assignments a week, and there's still 170 some people in there, and it's like you spent the money to do this and to like be serious about it, and it wasn't cheap, and you just kind of stopped in your tracks and you didn't do anything. And I'm sure that life happens and stuff gets in the way, but it's just a trend. Like I said, like I've noticed, like going through the Marine Corps, going through college, and like all this other stuff. It's like just seeing people not stay committed to what they started.
Right. Yeah, I mean, um, yeah, I mean, without like the motivator of having like either a teacher or a boss over your shoulder or a parent or something, the truth of the matter is most people just can't stay motivated. Um, I just noticed there are a few comments. I'm going to go
Yeah.
through those quickly. Carlos saying novelists and writers are the same, only if you get it done. Yeah, I mean, any any project that takes more than a few days, I think most people are not going to be able to finish it. And Carl is saying lots of people want to be something until they see the work. Carl says same for construction contractors.
Yeah,
Interesting. I
especially
mean,
if
I
they
was
work
going
for
to
the
say,
city.
I mean, I feel like sometimes people are hard on artists because I mean, my um, view of it is that most people just don't really have the dedication. I mean, I also have a hell of a time finding somebody to do my taxes every year. I think I finally found a pretty reliable guy, but I mean, it took me years to find this guy. So um, I guess the point I'm trying to make is I think people in general are unreliable. It's not necessarily artists.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. It's but you see that every day at work, especially, people showing up with like that's what's something that's crazy to me because like I was saying, it's like I work remotely, and it's like you literally work 30 seconds away from your desk. Like you sleep 30 seconds away from your desk, and people are still late to work, and it's like, how?
Yeah, it's
It's
not funny.
insane.
So have you had trouble with that when doing your doing these anthologies? People saying like, "Oh, I'll be done with this project in a week," and then a week comes and goes and nothing. There's no
Yeah,
progress.
so actually somebody it's funny you say that because like I've been announcing about the anthology like in just various discords and it's like wherever I can just recruit people for like probably about 6 weeks now because I want to give people about 6 to 4 weeks or so worth of time to like draw something out and so they don't have to dedicate a lot of time to it and they just kind of work on it, just get it done, and they still get work out there. Somebody had reached out to me on like the third week it was up. So there was still at least like another like 3 or 4 weeks worth of time. So it was basically still at the beginning. Reached out to
Oh,
me and said, "Hey, is it possible for you to extend it for me because X, Y, and Z?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's fine, but how much time did you need?" And he said, "I probably need like a week or so." And I was like, "That's cool," but I was like, "I need to know how many pages you're going to be doing, so that way when I'm designing the book, I just have it done, and all I got to do is just slot your stuff in." And deadline came, hit. I sent him a message because it was like another 3 weeks, like I said, and didn't never heard anything from him. So I sent him a message and I was like, "Hey, what's going on? I haven't heard anything from you." And it was like another 3 or 4 days by the time he emailed me, and he was like, "It's 4 pages." And I was like, "I'm sorry, brother, but you kind of ruined it with your non-responsiveness on everything like that." And it's like, it literally takes 30 seconds to send a Discord message back and say it's 4 pages, and it took you a week and 4 days to say something to me. So I was just like, good luck, man. And just kind of like went about my business and just sent it off to the printer. Um, and then yeah, look for the second anthology. Somebody that we actually worked with in the first book had said that they already had 6 pages done and we're going to send them off to me. And I was waiting on them, and they never came. So it's just like it's just things like that. And I don't know if they just didn't finish it or what the case was, but they claimed it was done and said they were going to send it off to me, and it just never came. And I reached out in Discord and never heard anything. So it's just like, yeah, I mean, people are unreliable and things happen. But at the same time, though, it's like if you're working with somebody, it's like you kind of have to be, responsive, or at least let them know what's going on, because it's like, hey, I'm working on these, but I can't hit a deadline. Keep them updated on like what you're doing. Like, hey, I'm on like this page. This is where I'm at, and like send whatever you already have done to them so they can just like slot it into the book or whatever. Give them updates. But when it's just cold dead, just nothing, and it's like that's an issue. And Sean Crystal was actually talking about this in SBS that he was working on Deadpool at the time, and he got a call from an editor at DC, which obviously Marvel is that's Deadpool. So he's like, why the hell is the editor that I worked for at DC calling me? Picked up the phone. He's like, hey, well, what do we got going on? And I guess the editor was like, I can't remember who he said it was, but some artist that Sean was like friendly with, and was like, this dude owes us pages and we can't get a hold of him. Have you heard from him? And it's like, yeah, I can get a hold of him for you. So it's like he had an editor from another company reaching out to him to try to track somebody's pages down. I was like, that's how wild it even gets in like that world even. So it doesn't
Wow.
even it also happens at the highest level. So
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's funny.
yeah.
You assume, like with Marvel and DC, those guys know what's going on. Yeah, I don't really know what happens. I mean, if I mean, I'm assuming that they work on those books far enough in advance that if somebody gets like cancer or something, they can say like, "Hey, sorry, I can't finish this book. You're going to need to find somebody else." Maybe that's what happened. When you read those comic books and it's like 5 different artists doing like 11 different pages, maybe
Yeah.
that's what happens in those situations.
Yeah, just fill-ins and whatnot. I mean, it's definitely a possibility. And from what I remember, Sean saying that that dude ended up getting let go from that gig, and they ended up filling in somebody else. And I'm pretty sure he said it was a Batman book. So that was probably a pretty hefty payday that dude lost, because obviously Batman's a big book. So what are
So
you gonna do?
something I wanted to ask you. You said that you have a 100-page book coming out.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why you decided to do it in one big chunk as opposed to releasing it in like 5 20-page books or whatever?
Yeah, so my reasoning behind it, and this is something that I actually kind of like asked all of the students and instructors in SVS like a couple of weeks ago, about like how I should roll it out. And I'm like, here's why I'm thinking this way, and here's why I'm thinking this way. And as a collector and as somebody who loves comic books, like I love a floppy, like I'm all about that. But I understand that I'm kind of in the minority nowadays. And then plus, even if you are into floppies, when you look at floppy sales, number one, it's going to be high. And then two, three, four, five, so on and so forth, the sales always decline.
Yeah,
So I'm of the mind that, hey, I can stick it out in one big graphic novel, and then I wrote the story intentionally in a way that I can break them up into 24-page issues. So my kind of plan was is, and this a student actually had brought this up to me. He's like, why not just condense it all down into that graphic novel, and then also
yeah.
have it available into single issues if people want to do that. And I'm like, that's awesome. So then I'm probably going to have people do like variant covers and things like that to kind of move those single issues, and then just have the basic, uh, cover of just like the A cover, or however you want to look at that, on the actual graphic novel itself. Um, that was the main driver, was just the declining sales and floppies. and then plus that's less work for me to do, with having to mail stuff and have stock and things like that. It's easier for me to keep one book than it is to have 10 books, so
I mean, that is a good point. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess my philosophy has been, um, if I put, a book out like in individual issues and then collect them, that's kind of the best of both worlds. But I don't know. At conventions, we've been experimenting with, not setting out the individual issues, just setting out the trade paperbacks and
mhm.
seeing, are there people who are like, I want to try your comic book, and I probably would have just bought issue one, but since the trade paperback's there, I guess I'll buy that instead. But I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
have a good
I
answer.
was in my LCS a couple weeks ago, and I was kind of like asking him like, and how would you want to roll this out? Like, or what were your opinions on how I should roll out the book? And he said, as a comic shop, I can tell you that having that single bound is way easier for us to carry because it takes up less space. And then plus, it doesn't live and die in the back issue bins because that's probably where your book is going to end up going. So he was saying it's probably best to stick it there. And then plus, when people come in and like say, for instance, they're new to comic books, it's an easier sell to give somebody a $20 Batman book that has 10 issues in it rather than handing them a Batman issue out of the back issue bin where it's only one issue and for $20. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think the single issues kind of speak more to the collector and people who are like real hardcore into comics, and like the trade paperbacks and the omnibuses and things like that are more for like the casual audience. Not that I don't have those things, but I think it's people of that your more casual side are more focused on like trade paperbacks and things like that because they can just get it all in one go, and they don't have 50 long boxes sitting in their house or whatever, right? So like I said, it's like an easier sale because I think like price point takes up less space and whatnot. But that was the feedback anyways that I got from the comic shop, that just trades are probably just best for a project like that.
Yeah, I mean something else. I mean, I'm starting to think like, with the price of printing going up, it's almost pricing out um, individual issues just because
Mhm.
um, the cost of printing is just getting so ridiculous. It's like, especially for a single issue, it's like if it's going to cost me like $3 to print a 20-page comic book that I can only sell for five, it's almost
Yep.
like it's almost like not even worth doing it.
Yeah, for sure. And I grew up playing in like hardcore bands and things like that. So I have a lot of experience of making just like zines out of the brother printer, laser printer, and just stapling them together and things like that. And I've even contemplated just kind of like moving to that model anyways, because you can always buy nicer paper, but that's still fairly cheap, and then just run it through your printer and just staple them that way. Um, the thing is though, it's like if you do go that route, typically it's like you have to have smaller zines, but I think that you could still price it at that like $2 to $5 price point, and people will still buy them, and your profit margins are going to be way higher because purely because it's like cost you 10 cents to print it, and those staples probably costed you like a fraction of a penny, right? So it's
Yeah,
like there's barely any money in it. So
yeah, that's nice. So I'm going to run through some of these comments, and then we can talk about the cartoonist kayfabe comic books that you
yeah.
wanted to discuss. Okay, so Dan was saying earlier that construction contractors are pretty unreliable, and it looks like he has a story here. I guess some contractors didn't show up for the last 2 days, and they said they would. And him and his wife are pretty upset. And Carl is comforting him. Dan is saying, I did get some good news. The audiobook of Disposable Man will be out soon. Hey Dan, when that's uh, Or actually, if you want to send me the link to the original, I'll promote that one as well. And Dan is saying that the voice actor nailed it, so I'm happy about that. That's awesome. Carl's saying cool, and Donna is saying that's great, Dan. Yeah, that is really great. So you wanted to talk about some of the cartoonist kayfabe books that you have. So I didn't have time to look for a lot of my Jim Rugg and Ed Piskor comic books, but I got this one out because this is a lesser known one that I don't know if too many people um, know about. This is Jim Rugg's Guide to Pittsburgh Comic Books. And it is a pretty cool little comic book. And we actually have an art print of his up on the wall here. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the cover of this comic book.
Yeah, I have 4 originals of his. I recently acquired them. I should have. I can go grab them real quick when I get a. Yeah, I can go grab them when I flip the camera here real quick. But yeah, I got a couple of originals of his. And I got pretty much everything that the dudes have ever worked on. Like, I literally keep this right beside my desk at all times. The Eddie P Studio Edition. Yeah, dude, this book is incredible. It's not a cheap book. I think I paid like $100 for it, and I think that's what it retailed for. It was $120 is what it retailed for, but typically on like eBay and places like that, this thing's pretty pricey. I got this from a comic shop in man, where were they at? I think it was in Texas. And they had it on their website used, and I snatched it up, and it actually wasn't used. Like, it came like shipped still in the Fantagraphics box and everything. So not too sure, but I got it on a cheaper than what it was retail. But yeah, it's not a cheap book. But all it is really, for the most part, it's mostly hip hop family tree, and a little bit of WYSIWYG is in here, I think, but most of this stuff is just hip hop family tree, and it's all just raw pencils and ink, so you can still see Ed's blue line. I don't know how well that really comes through, but yeah, it's incredible. It's just like one of those inspirational books that I just grab and just always have it there. Oh.
Yeah, I put you on solo so that you could show.
Gotcha. Well, I can swap my camera down over here. Let me swap my camera. I got 2 cameras set up. There we go. Yeah, so I got Alien Disclosure. I'm not too sure why it's flipped like that though. Why is it? Is that backwards for you too?
No, it looks good for me.
Okay, weird. I don't know why it's flipped backwards. I'll go grab those originals real quick because they're just in the other room. You will still hear me with the power of wireless microphones.
So I like this. I like this comic book. I will say the cover kind of didn't do a lot for me.
Yeah, it's a little. I wouldn't say that it's boring. It doesn't stick out very well. But yeah, this is I got a couple of Jim Rugg originals here. So this is a Sting that I bought from him.
Oh wow.
I'm a big wrestling guy, and so
Cool.
of course grab Sting.
Is Sting one of your favorites?
Yeah, I mean my all-time favorites is Bret Hart, but yeah, I'm a big Sting guy. I love Sting. I got a Space Ghost.
Awesome.
Yeah, Steve Rude is a big influence of mine, and I grew up watching Hanna-Barbera cartoons and stuff with my grandpa. So Space Ghost is like a big character for mine. He's probably my favorite like superhero character. I have a Steve Rude. I'll literally just pull it off the wall because it's right above my drawing desk here, and I'll show it to you guys. I got a signed Steve Rude drawing there.
Oh wow.
Space Ghost. Yeah. He's like I said, Steve Rude's my He's my all-time favorite. It's not necessarily like when you look at my art and stuff, because like I was saying earlier, it's like I do more underground outlaw books, and that's definitely not something that Steve Rude does. But it's more his philosophy and like discipline about art that I really like about him. So that's like I don't know, like that's why he's my favorite. Basically, I guess is just because of just how disciplined he is, and the dude just never stops learning. So that's just like really inspirational to me. And
I
then I
watched.
got
I'm assuming you saw the documentary about him, right?
yeah.
He seems like kind of an intense guy.
Yeah, for sure. So Steve, he streams on YouTube like every Saturday, and I watch him almost every weekend. But there's been a handful of contests that he's ran, and I would enter them. I He did one for a camel, and I got second place in that one. That was like the highest one I ever got placed in, but he's super active, and the dude, he's very yeah, he's what's the word, like curmudgeonly, I guess is the phrase I would use. So he's he's bipolar, he is autistic, and he has another condition. I can't remember what he has,
Another
but
ism.
he's has a bunch of personality disorders that kind of makes a lot of sense, like how he's so hyper focused on how art is and all that kind of stuff. So that makes a lot of sense in retrospect on kind of learning about him personally. But once you kind of get around Steve, I guess, or like watch him and kind of see his mannerisms, and I email back and forth with him every once in a while. Mostly his wife Janelle and his daughter Jess. They're mostly the ones that are like operating everything, and I email with them back and forth all the time. And Steve's a good dude. It's just I think it's just one of those things that he comes off very very prickly, and I think that's just because of his like I said, he's like autistic and has bipolar disorder and all that kind of stuff. So I think that has a little bit of explanation there because of that.
Yeah. I'm
But yeah,
sorry I interrupted you right before you were about to.
oh no, you're good, dude. It's all good. We're here to shoot the shit. This is yeah, just Adam West Batman. I think this is the last one that I have because the other one is in a frame up on the wall. And it's not easy for me to pull down. But the other one that I have is a street angel drawing that he did.
Do you mind if I ask? Like, I mean, you don't have to give me an exact number. Do you mind if I ask, like, how expensive were these? Like, super expensive, or were they just?
Yeah, they weren't crazy. So he has a I don't know if you know what CAF is. Um Man, I wish I could remember like what that stands for, but CAF. I think you can just find it through Jim's website, possibly even. But they're basically like an art dealer, and Don Simpson uses that dealer as well. So yeah, they use the same art dealer, and that's where I purchased them from. I am on Jim Rugg's Patreon, and when you are on his Patreon, he will run art deals. So I got I think it was 30% off because right when he first jumped on to CAF, because he's only been on there for like 3 months, I want to say, and I bought those like a couple months ago. Um, but he still gives discounts away. So those drawings, I think were like $400 a piece, but that was before the discount, and I think after I bought everything, it was about $400. So I got four original drawings for about $400 from what I remember. So not bad at all. But he does have things on his art gallery that are thousands. You know what I mean? And that's out of my price range. But I can swing a couple $100 here and there to buy some original rug stuff. So.
Yeah, I'm looking on his website right now, and um, yeah, your wife might be mad at you for telling me that he has original art on here because I'm just looking at all this awesome stuff. I, Pretty close to the top of the page is a Ric Flair drawing where it says "Woo" behind him, and I'm like, oh my god, that is so cool.
Yeah, Rick was my favorite once upon a time, and then I just think his shenanigans over the years, he's kind of ruined his legacy for me, unfortunately. Like I still love him, and uh if you're a wrestling guy, I'm sure you know, but like the woo off he did with Jay Lethal, that's probably
Yeah.
like my most watched like promo ever. Like I literally just rewatched it a couple of days ago, and for just whatever reason, I just think it's hilarious. And I always just go back and rewatch that segment.
I'm gonna tell you what, if Jim has a Macho Man, I might have to buy it. I don't see it here, but I mean that's my all-time favorite wrestler. Um,
The cool thing with the CAF, that website, is they track all the sales. So like you have to create an account with them and open up an account and everything like that. So they track where all the art goes. So even if he did have something and it sold, it will show who the seller was. So you could always reach out through the gallery, or you could reach out directly to the seller to see if they're ever opening to parting with something. So that's like a cool function of that gallery.
yeah, I can tell already this is gonna be dangerous.
Yeah,
Um,
he's one of my favorites. I don't know if they're still up there, but there were like a couple of Archie covers that I was thinking about grabbing, and those weren't like terribly expensive. But those might be gone now. They were Love and Rocket #1 homages, but they were like the Archie characters, but in like the Love and Rocket style.
oh, that's
Yeah, it was awesome.
so. What is this you have showing right here?
Yeah, so this is a fanzine that Jim Rugg did. It's called Black and White, and it's basically just a dedication to black and white comics. Pretty basic. So yeah, so it's got all sorts of stuff in here. So obviously he's got like a Faust logo and all that kind of stuff. And I don't remember exactly what is in this, so I'll try to like flip ahead and to see if there's anything naughty in here that YouTube wouldn't like. But I think for the most part, that most of this stuff is okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a fanzine just kind of that he put out that's dedicated to black and white stuff. And um a lot of the times when he's running sales or uh just on his website in general, he has this zine, and I have like two other zines that it comes with, and it's like a bundle that basically you get all three or four of them for the price of three. So if you're already going to get all of them, uh, it's just cheaper to do it that way. But he runs sales more often than not. Like I would say, like once every like 3 or 4 months, he'll run like a 20% off sale. So if you're not like subscribed to his newsletter, that's how I pretty much get all of my information is from his newsletter, pretty much. And so he'll send out like, "Hey, I'm running a sale on my website. Here's the 20% off code," and that's what I'll use, um, to get stuff from him.
So I'm not on his Patreon, but my wife is, and I
Yeah,
always I always ask her to show me the emails like when he sends them out, and sometimes she remembers, sometimes she doesn't. But
dude, his Patreon is literally the best. Like he doesn't post a lot of like, because obviously he does like 2 or 3 comics a year. He doesn't really post a lot of that stuff like per se, but his like monthly or biweekly update, it's amazing. Like it's literally like the dude types a book basically. And he gives like, "Oh, here's what my wife and I were doing this weekend. Like we are making pizzas," and he'll like show like his recipe that he did for like the dough. And it's like a more of like a personal behind the scenes type of stuff that he's doing. And then like artists that he recommends, books that he recommends. But yeah, dude, it takes like a good like 20 to 30 minutes to like read through his posts on Patreon. I really like it. And like same thing with like the Ink Pulp Patreon, like Jim Rugg's Patreon and the Ink Pulp Patreon, I think are like the best Patreons I've ever been a part of. And I'll definitely, yeah, that's not good for YouTube, but I'll keep supporting him as I go, dude, because like I was saying, it's just the content is fantastic.
yeah, so do you have any other books you wanted to show?
Yeah, for sure, dude. I got a whole stack we can look at. So this one here, it's got a bookmark in it, which I don't know I see why it's got a bookmark in it. So this is another zine that he did. This is 1986. It is dedicated to comics that came out specifically in 1986.
Yeah,
Um,
it's crazy. I've always heard people say, 1986 is the greatest year for comic books. And then you
yeah,
sit down and look at how many comic books came out in 1986 that have gone on to become, seminal works, and it's like, wow, it's crazy, right?
yep. Literally, just this right here just speaks all of it. Got the Dark Knight Returns. We got the Odyssey by Richard Corbin. We got Gore Shriek up here. The Alan Moore Swamp Thing run. Uh, Watchmen, the Turtles, Batman Year One. It's like just that right there alone, and then it's just going, man. It's have you ever seen this comic before? I have this in my collection. Shatter.
Uh-uh.
So this book, I have a couple of them dug in my boxes, but this is claimed to be the first digital comic of all time, and it came out in 1986. So this comic is pretty trippy. Like it looks like it got spat out by like a like dot matrix printer almost. It's like the best way to describe it.
Hmm.
It's kind of funky looking, but it's awesome though. It's very like it takes place in the future. It's like a cyberpunk book pretty much. But yeah, this is like the dollar bin special. So this is where you can find these at, but they're cool books though. I'm pretty sure the Kayfabe dudes covered this at one point, so I'm sure you can find it on their channel. Oh, and then
Interesting.
Nexus started in 1986 apparently, which that's Steve Rude's book.
Right.
Love and Rockets started in 1986.
That's crazy. Like, how did all these comic books come along in 1986?
Watchmen. Yeah, it's actually pretty nuts when you like sit and look at this. And like Scout is another book that's like pretty off the beaten path, like dollar bin type of book, but it's badass if you've never seen Scout before.
So I'm looking. So I'm on the Cartoonist Kayfabe YouTube channel. They don't have a video specifically for Shatter, but they do
Yeah,
have a video. They have a video about uh, computer-made comic books, which
yeah,
is
that
kind of
yeah,
ironic now because all comic books are kind of made on the computer.
yeah, yeah. So it's probably in that video then, or it could have been in like one of those videos to where like one of those show and tell videos that they're just kind of like pulling out comics that they bought recently.
No, I know
Um,
for a fact that it's in this video because it's in the thumbnail
nice.
for the video. So yeah,
Yeah.
so I'll watch that after we're done here.
But yeah, this Johnny Quest run that Kamiko did is so good, and Steve Rude did a lot of stuff for this Johnny Quest book because he had previous to this he had done that Space Ghost book
Right.
for Kamiko. Yeah, Death Rattle is a cool like anthology book that Kitchen Sink puts out. I got a couple issues of those, and again, the just dollar bin special. But it's very it's the word I'm looking for. It's like it's still an anthology book, but it's like more horror focused because with Kitchen Sink with their anthology books, like you never know what you're gonna get. Like it's literally just like a mixed bag for the most part. But Death Rattle is more of like an horror anthology. More Love and Rockets. Talking about professional wrestling. Who we got here? Uh, got Hulk and Animal and Hulkster. I can't really see who these other dudes are. It's too small.
Right.
But
Yes. And 1986 would have been the heyday of what a lot of people have called like the Saturday morning era.
yeah, it looks like maybe that's Ricky Steamboat. I can't really tell who. Oh, that's Roddy Piper for sure. I can't really tell who these other dudes are. Maybe that might be Dusty. I don't know.
Right.
Like I love like all eras of wrestling. So even going back to the original Buddy Rogers and all those dudes, even like back to the 20s and 30s. Like I get down with all that stuff. Like I'm a big like cornet guy, so just like that historic knowledge and things like that, I pick up a lot from. So I love everything about it.
I listen to a lot of Jim Cornette. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of what he says.
Yeah.
See, I'm one of the if he and I ever sat down and had a conversation about wrestling, he would probably hate me because I am one of those guys who likes kind of like the cheesy, what's the word, kind of campier
Yeah.
aspect of wrestling, which he's a big opponent of.
For sure. The dude he's like a wordsmith, and that's like one of the things that I guess why I started listening to him. And it was a joke that he made. It was the very first, like maybe the second or third clip of his like that I was listening to. And he was just talking about the weather and how hard it was raining. He said like the rain was coming down harder than a cow pissing on a flat rock. And I don't know why, but I thought that was like the funniest thing. Dude from Ohio, it's like in Wisconsin, it's like you can imagine it's like what a cow would be doing if it pissed on a flat rock and how hard that would be coming down. So just like one of those analogies that the dude is like he's a wordsmith, and yeah, he's so funny though. um so yeah, this is Rambo 3.5, the oversized edition.
Yeah, I have this
Typically,
somewhere. Oh, I don't
what's
have
up?
the oversized. I don't have the oversized version. I have the regular size.
Yeah, just the little mini comic that he did. Um, so this will probably have to be a little picky and choosy on what we can show because this book is pretty not really graphic, I would say, but it has a lot of slang in here that probably wouldn't be too friendly to YouTube, really. Um, but if people aren't familiar with this is Rambo 3.5, it's basically supposed to be in between Rambo 3 and like the new Rambo that came out. Well, the not the new or the newest, but the one that came out in like the early 2010s. I think it was called Rambo.
He just keeps making those, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he's done like two since then. I think he's done making. Stallone's done making these now, but so yeah, this is just kind of like a parody book, I guess. That's that way to look at it. It's more comedy. Um, it I really don't want to spoil it because if you guys haven't picked this up before, it's just one of those things that if you're okay with more, because I think he's poking fun at it, but more like conservative ideals and things like that. So if you're okay with him kind of talking shit on like that sort of the political spectrum, then I think you'll be okay with this. And even then, there's a lot of things in here that would probably offend a lot of other people. So just kind of be aware of that, I guess, because after reading this, like this thing goes off the rails quick. Um, yeah, so that just that panel right there was pretty wild. I think we'll just stop there because Grant, you know what's in here, but
I mean, the thing that like just looking at this that's going through my head is, man, is he good at drawing likenesses?
oh yeah, it's like his cartooning is insane. Let's see if we can just go back here. Oh, those are just action figures. But yeah, I mean that's George Bush. I mean, even here, like that cartoony version, like that's George Bush.
I
I
mean,
just
yeah,
realized that he was taking a nap. I think that might be his dad. It's funny. But yeah, this book is off the wall though. Like this is probably like my second favorite thing that Jim has ever done. Like I said, it's like I love that underground, just like off the wall type stuff, and this book definitely falls within that category. Like the last half of this thing is just batshit.
Did you read Octobriana?
Yeah, I have every copy of that. So like the black and white version, the color version, and then the black light version. I also have that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Octobriana kind of gets a similar feel where it rides it's definitely 80s action inspired, and it kind of rides that line between parody and homage, kind of very brilliantly.
Yeah, his like I said, I pretty much have everything that those two dudes have ever put out. Like my favorite thing that Jim has probably put out like solo wise, in terms of like not working with a writing partner, man, I don't know. I like solo stuff. It might be Rainbow 3.5 is like my favorite thing that he's ever done because Street Angel, I believe there's a writer attached to that too. Yeah, there is. Can't remember what his name is though off the top of my head. First, that's terrible. Um, but I think Street Angel and maybe Aphrodisiac is probably like my favorite things that he, did with like a Brian McNamara. That was his name. I can't remember what his name was. But yeah, Aphrodisiac is up there for me. I'm really big into like the blaxploitation movies, so like Coffee, Shaft, and all that kind of stuff. So Aphrodisiac is literally that in a comic. So what isn't there to love? That's kind of a harder one to find, at least in terms of the hardcover that they had released for that. I finally ended up finding it at like a half price books, I think, but it's one of those books that's kind of harder to track down because it's kind of I think it's like almost like 10 years old now at this point, so it's a little harder to track down. So yeah, this is Street Angel, and I believe this is a sketchbook. And then this other thing, so this came together in like a pack. So this is kind of like there was another book that came with this. I may have that over by my drawing desk, but it's basically like this is his script to Street Angel. So in his thumbnails, so it's just kind of like more process books, and then he has another book that's basically his pencils. Like I said, I think that's over by my drawing desk, and all three of these come in like one bundle, so you're getting like three books. I think it's like $20. I want
Oh,
to
wow.
say.
Neat.
But yeah, so this is like oh maybe this is his pencils, and then the other thing over by my drawing desk might be the sketchbook for it. Yeah, it's the sketchbook over by my desk, and I love to think about it, and that's like a little mini 5-inch comic.
Cool.
But yeah, this is cool stuff though. I'm sure you are real interested in seeing just like process, how people work and things like that. And that's one of the things that I love about Jim's Patreon is he gives all his zines and everything like that for free digitally. So you can always download them and always have them. And it's literally everything that he puts out, he puts on there digitally to give out for PDFs. Um, and then the other thing that he does as well is like basically all of his process, color selection and everything like that, screen tone selection, anything that he uses, he'll put up. And then so that way you can, because sometimes he'll do his screen tone and everything like that digitally. He has all those files up, so you can just literally use the same thing that he was using. So that's one of the benefits to his Patreon.
That's awesome.
Uh, I think we'll change the pace up here a little bit and show off a little bit of Eddie stuff. I don't know how well this is going to show because it's a Treasury edition. I don't have a lot of space. But this is Second Genesis. This is one of the Grand Design books that he put out. I have Second Genesis, and then I have the first book of this. I think there's 3 Treasuries total. It's just X-Men Grand Design, Second Genesis, and then what is it? Extension is the third one, I think. But yeah, I'm a big treasury guy. They're kind of a pain in the ass to have around the house because there isn't like a good bookshelf to put them on. So they kind of go underneath like a coffee table for me. Um, I have a Dick Tracy book, and the thing was printed at newspaper size if it was like opened up. So the thing is like no shit, like 20 by like 30. Like it's a massive book. And same thing with that. It's like, when I bought it, I didn't really think about that. Like, where am I gonna store this? And the same thing, it just kind of goes underneath like a shelf on the coffee table.
Yeah, those bigger comic books can be difficult. I have this one as well. And yeah, I kind of stuff it in between like my bookshelves, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you know how there's like maybe like 2 or 3 inches in between our bookshelves, so I just like slip it in there.
Yep. Yeah, his cartooning is, it's on another level. Um Same thing with like his color theory, I think is just the best. It's like it obviously a vintage comic book wouldn't have been colored like this, but it definitely gives that illusion that it's a vintage comic book of how because of how it was colored, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I was like surprised by like when he lets like the actual white of the papers, like sort of like that page right there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool stuff, and I think he's scanned in. I think he had mentioned it on like a kayfabe episode at one point, but I think this is just a brown paper sack that he like scanned in. That's what he's using as the texture back there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I believe that's what the case because I'm pretty sure he just drew this, on normal Bristol, and then when in the coloring process, it was just literally just like a brown grocery sack that he scanned in and used as the background on the or the texture on the paper.
Crazy.
Yeah, and this is something that I picked up from him too. It's like all of these color tones he ripped out of X-Men comics. So he literally just scanned them with his scanner and then just hit the little eyedropper and just grabbed colors out of the comic book, and that's what he used to color it. So it's a little hack. I don't do a lot of coloring in my comics, and that's why like a vast majority of them are in black and white. Um, for the graphic novel that I'm working on, I had to finish the cover and have it done for school. Um, I guess a little bit of inside baseball. I'm colorblind, so a lot of colors or just coloring in general is kind of a hurdle for me. Um,
I would
so I ended
imagine.
up having to hire somebody to color the cover because I wanted it to be colored, and it's very much inspired by the cover, and the book itself is very much inspired by the Steve McQueen movie Bullet. I don't know if you've ever seen that before. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very much inspired by that, and the cover of the soundtrack has like a really cool design, and always really liked the color palette on there. And we basically just like pulled that up and did the same thing, just like grabbed the colors out of that and used it, and it looked awesome. So it's like little things that I picked up from listening to Ed and Jim talk.
So Sam, we're running a little bit late. I
Yeah.
noticed some people are saying like, "Oh, we have to go to bed and whatever." Do you have maybe like one more book that in particular that you wanna show?
Uh, let's see. I mean, we can just grab something. Let's show this off because this will kind of direct people to stuff that I do on my channel. So if you guys want to check it out, it's literally just Sam McClurg on YouTube, and I I do what Grant does. So I will do live drawings. A lot of the stuff that I do, like art tips, I do things like flip throughs and all that kind of stuff. One of the things that I love to cover is like weird Japanesey type of stuff. So this is one of the books, and I have a YouTube video up, and it's like I think it's called like Crazy Japan magazines, Japanese magazines, I should say. Um, and this is one of the things that I show off. So this is Kodansha magazine, and Kodansha is like one of the biggest publishers for like manga and like children's magazines in Japan, and at one point in time they had published Akira. So just to kind of give you, I guess, a little bit of context. Um, so this is a children's magazine, and they put in all sorts of weird, and I'll turn this light off here so it doesn't reflect because it's glossy paper. Um, but it's just weird off the wall stuff that they put in these. So this is basically a synopsis of the Ninja Turtles just kind of enclosed inside this magazine. Um, and they just are given character backgrounds, what they do. So that's just randomly in here. And then it's just, oh, here's Super Sentai trading cards. Here's like Kamen Rider, Ultraman, Ninja Turtle stickers.
Yeah, it's
Here's
kind
a
of
stand
sensory
up of like,
overload, right?
what's up?
It's kind of sensory overload, right?
Yeah, like this is crazy. Like just the amount of stuff that's on here. It's like anxiety inducing, but I like it at the same time. But yeah, like little cardboard standout like Ultraman that you can put in there. Um they put posters in here, and this is like commonplace in Japan with like their magazines and stuff, and even in most magazines. So like say for instance, if you're buying a makeup magazine, like the makeup magazine will come with like makeup included with it. So they do all sorts of things like that over there, and it's just commonplace. But uh, like I said, this is just stuff that I like to cover on my channel, do flip throughs of these and just weird, obscure Japanese books. I'm really big into monster magazines. So if you like Famous Monsters, Monster World, Fangoria, that kind of stuff, I cover that.
And
Um,
you said it's just Sam McClurg.
yeah, it's Sam it's going to be at Sam underscore McClurg if you're looking at through the URL. But yeah, you should
Sam
just be able to search my
underscore
name and it should just pop up.
McClurg. I think
Um,
that's you. Are you wearing a baseball jersey?
yeah,
Cool. Okay, I'm
but
gonna
yeah,
try.
they just put all sorts of goofy stuff in here, and like, oh, here's just game guides for Wario Land in here. So it's just really crazy stuff that I wish that was kind of more commonplace here in America that they have over in Japan. So yeah, I have a series dedicated to like weird Japanese stuff. I have a series dedicated to like the Marvel Beavis and Butthead comics. Flip through all of those. The Marvel Ren and Stimpy comics. I have a series that's probably like by far the most popular thing on my channel. It's called The Genius of, where it's basically I will look at an artist's or like a comic book creator's career, kind of like from the start until like where they're kind of at currently. I did one on Todd McFarlane, and that has a couple thousand hits on it. So that's probably by far the most viewed thing that I have on my channel. So if you're kind of starting out with things to watch and you're into Todd McFarlane, that's probably where I would start. And I even get into like the toys, the movies, basically everything that the dude has done in his career. And that's like a good hour and some change chunk of a video there. So recommend to look at that.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I put the link to your YouTube channel, and I'm definitely gonna check it out. I'm gonna check it out after I check out this cartoonist kayfabe video about Shatter.
Yeah,
But
it's
I will
like I
check it
said,
out.
it's an interesting book. It's kind of weird looking just because obviously at the time that it came out and all that kind of stuff, but it's one of my favorite like weird obscure books that not a lot of people know about. So yeah, you'll like it.
So, like I said, we're actually running a little bit late.
Yeah.
We got talking, but thank you so much for being on the show, Sam, and thank you everybody who watched. We will be back next week. I'm not sure who the guest is yet, but we will definitely be back next week. And my Kickstarter is ending next week, so we will be discussing that. So thank you so much, Sam, for being on the show, and have a great rest of your evening.
Yeah, and I thanks for having me.
Oh, was
And
there anything you wanted to promote, like other than the YouTube channel?
yeah, I mean, obviously, I'll be at Eddie PCon. That's kind of what I'm dredging up for here. If you are like an artist and you are interested in like doing more businessy side of things, so a little bit inside baseball, I print t-shirts, I can print stickers, I have a 3D printer, so I can literally print anything. So if you have designs, logos, what have you, and you want to make stencils for them, whatever, like I'm your guy. So like I said, I had an engineering background. That's what I did. I don't think I said that, but that's what I did in the Marine Corps. I was an engineer. So that's have a lot of background there. So at Eddie Pecan, I'm going to have a lot of that stuff. So you can always get it from me there. So like circle guides, triangles, all that kind of stuff. That's usually like stupid expensive because for whatever reason, a piece of plastic is $50 for a triangle, you know? So it's going to be way more durable plastic and everything like that. And the price is going to be way cheaper because I can make this stuff for basically like next to nothing. And that's trying to pass the savings on to everybody and also trying to do a lot of improvements to those stencils and to those guides and things like that to make them more uh, specific to comics. So that's what I'm pretty much doing.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Sam. Uh, have a good rest of your week, and stay in touch.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'll send you an email, and like I said, I'll see you at Eddie PCon. I still got your comp copies, so I'll bring them out to you then, so that way you get your copies for you. Yeah, and thanks for having me, and I hope everybody has a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Sam.
Yep, peace.